It's time for the Victoria University's 60-second seminar.
We're joined today by Marc Wilson. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take it away.
Oh, the pressure. Well, broadly, if I was allowed to call myself this, I'd be a social psychologist. So I'm interested. It's party psychology, anything that happens when people are involved. I've spent a lot of time looking at why people do the weird things that they do, and that includes political behaviour, why they eat the things they do, why they believe things they do, conspiracy theories, urban myths, paranormal phenomena. If there's one thing I've learnt, it's that it just goes to show, if you ask a funny question, there's no one-size-fits-all. If we look at things like paranormal belief, then there are a variety of theories that people have proposed to explain it. Things like, social marginalisation, people who are on the margins of society are more likely to believe odd things, or perhaps that people who are slightly dimmer than the rest of us will believe, credulous believers. But personally, I subscribe in most things to a functional belief. The things that we believe, we do so because they serve some kind of psychological function.
Well, that was an under 60 seconds.
Yeah,
well done.
I've got a couple of seconds then.
Yeah, I want to do psychology now.
Oh, yeah, well, I've got good material, I've got to say.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been at Victoria University since a very long time indeed. I've never actually left. And
so you started doing what, a BSci or BA at Victoria?
I started doing a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science actually, and I failed miserably at that. I did really, really badly.
But now I'm guessing you're glad that you failed that because you found something more interesting.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly right. I mean, that's so I try to remember that when I'm talking to potential students. Is you don't necessarily know what you're going to end up doing. You might have decided when you were, say, 9 years old that you wanted to be a computer scientist, and I don't think making those decisions it's not the most informed time to make these kinds of decisions, but that could just be me. But psychology works for me, and it turns out that it's not something that I study, it's something I've always done. As I say to the students, social psychology is the study of parties. If you're the sort of person who sits in the corner and watches other people make fools of themselves, then you're already a psychologist.
I can remember I was had a dental operation, and I was at a party. There was 3 months where I couldn't drink any alcohol or coffee or caffeine, couldn't eat any food, and for these 3 months I was going to these house parties completely without the influence of food or alcohol or caffeine, and it gave me a completely new perspective on what drunk people are like, and
exactly.
caffeine and sugar high people are like, because I couldn't. It's just like, they're crazy.
Yeah, well, one of the first things that alcohol acts on is that part of your brain which is responsible for giving you feedback about your behaviour. So it's the first thing
I know that
from
some what I've been told about what I've done. After,
yeah, well, I try to, whenever these things happen, you're just engaging in research, aren't you? Participant observation, research.
Yes. What's the most interesting sort of fields you cover?
Oh wow, I do a lot of things because I get asked crazy questions by journalists actually, and a lot of the things I get asked by journalists are not sort of the mainstream things that you find in psychology journals. So after a few years of being asked, for example, why do people go hunting? At the beginning of duck season, every year I get journalists calling me up. So I went away and did the research, and I did it because it seems to me that if a journalist's asking the question, then they assume that someone wants to hear the answer. Whereas in sort of traditional journal articles, you can't rely on a huge number of people ever reading them. We put a lot of effort into them. We want them to change the world, but actually you can't guarantee that anyone will read them. So a lot of my ideas come from those sorts of things. I really love the stuff looking at paranormal, conspiracy, urban myth, belief, just because, actually, to be quite honest, I love the X-Files. When I was younger, I thought that was the best show on television. And so I had an opportunity to go out and actually study those sorts of things. I mean, there's a lot of research that says that things like ESP, mind reading, these don't happen. So the next best thing really is to research why then, in the absence of evidence to support that these things actually occur, do people continue to believe them?
And Facebook, of course, is the big thing for Victoria University School of Psychology right now.
It's been such a bizarre couple of days. Bomb threat yesterday, and then you've been courted by the media to come talk about Facebook. Well, the stuff that's come out in the press recently is just the latest in the Facebook bandwagon, showing that people who have particular narcissistic tendencies use Facebook differently to everyone else. So here's a clue: if you've got 800 friends, there's a chance that you're narcissistic.
Yeah, I've got under 200.
Yeah. Well, I've only got 25, but there's probably a problem in another way. But that one was an interesting one for me because I've done a lot of research on narcissism. Because one of my areas of interest is also not just what people believe, but what explains the differences in what people believe. And a lot of that comes down to the nature of your personality.
You've been listening to the Victoria University 60-second seminar every Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m, only on the VBC.